Hello viewers, after going through the topics of consumer behavior and the product concept, trying to understand what are the factors which influence a consumer in buying and not buying a product, what are the different models of consumer behavior, and then about the various product concepts, the levels, the hierarchy, the classification, the stages that are involved in a new product introduction. So right from the time a product is introduced into the market till the death of the product or a new product goes about with replacing the existing product, products go through a cycle. Just like you and me, we have passed through different stages of our life, right from birth, when we were called as baby, then we become infants, then we become a child, and then we become adults, adolescents, we become mature men and women, then we get into old age. There are a lot of the stages that we go through. Even products, when they are introduced in the market, they undergo a lot of changes, and it is very much pertinent that we understand as to what the stages are. So if you know what the stages are, we will be able to meet the requirements of the market much better. So we will be able to mold our efforts in a way that it is appreciated by the market. So it is very much important that we understand what are the changes a product right from its introduction till its death, what are the changes that it undergoes, or if it is a service too, what are the changes that it undergoes, and how do we go about with matching ourselves to the expectations of the market. That is the reason why we study this concept called product life cycle. Now, to be in short, very often colloquially in marketing we refer to this concept as PLC, that is the product life cycle. So in this unit, what we will do is we would explain and understand what is the importance of product life cycle, and after going through this unit, you should be in a position to define what is a product life cycle, discuss the various stages that are involved in a product life cycle, describe the product life cycle span, and explain as to how do you manage a product life cycle. Right? So to begin with, just like I said a little while ago, human being also, and if I could compare or draw an analogy of a product, has got certain stages in its life cycle. So just like we see stages like infant, childhood, youth, adult, old age, and death in case of human beings, products also passes through these types of stages. And in fact, product life cycle is a conceptual presentation of its ongoing process. It is simply a graphic portrayal of the sales history of a product from the time it is introduced to the time of its withdrawal. So remember these words, from the time it is introduced to the time of its withdrawal. So this unit, we would explain the concept of PLC, that is the product life cycle, the stages of product life cycle, and the entire process of management of the product life cycle. So product life cycle is a concept, or it's rather very important concept in marketing. It provides insights into a product's competitive dynamics. At the same time, the concept at times can be misleading if people are not able to understand the subtle differences that go about with getting portrayed in each stage of the product life cycle. Now, product life cycle, there are a lot of definitions. You could go through with that in your material. Product life cycle is defined as an attempt to recognize the distinct stages that are there in the sales history of a product, a generalized model of sales and profit trends for a product class or a category or a product or a period of time. I repeat again, product life cycle is defined as an attempt to recognize distinct stages in the sales history of a product, and it's a generalized model of sales and profit trends for a product class or a category over a period of time. But essentially, the product life cycle concept is a simple one. It has got some key elements. Products move through in a cycle of introduction, growth, maturity, and decline, or saturation and decline, or it gets obsolete at different speeds. I wish the students go about with making a search to understand not all products go through this 4 to 5 stages. There is also words like fad. There are also words like style. There is also a word like trend. There is a word called fashion. Now, typically, fad is something wherein the product shoots up to popularity very quickly and dies very quickly. It's like your ringtones. A movie is very popular, it becomes very famous, everybody you see the same ringtone buzzing. Another movie comes, people forget the existing ringtone. So that's to do with the fad. So what is a style? What is a trend? What is a fashion? I mean, there are different kinds of shapes when you graphically project the sales, the profits, and the time that you take, and that pictorial representation is what we call it as the product life cycle. And both sales volume or the profit sales, we go about with studying, and we try remembering that product life cycle typically has got stages of introduction, growth, maturity, and decline. So here the functional emphasis is product management changes, like the way you go about with taking decisions at an introductory stage is something different from what you do in growth. The kind of decisions you take in maturity are something different from what you get in decline. If I can give an example, I don't know if I'm sure of giving an example here. Bata comes out with different models of footwear. At some point of time, what you find is there are certain models which are not being accepted in the market. So what they do is they hire a function hall or a vacant institute, and they go about with trying to do away with the old stock that is there, and they call it the clearance sale. And that is what you do in the last stage, where the product has reached a stage of decline. I mean, there could be various things that are there. We buy a product. Let's say I buy a laptop. Maybe the versions change, the technology change, and I'm not able to use it anymore. So I probably dispose it off or give it as an exchange offer and buy a new one. We have all done it with our mobiles. We have done it with our televisions. We've done it with our mattresses. So, any product that is there goes through different stages. You're trying to view this product life cycle from a point of view of a marketer, from a manager, from a decision maker. So it's very much crucial as to if you can understand the changes that happen over the stages of introduction, growth, maturity, and decline there, you would be able to figure out the appropriate decisions that are taken so that you don't have to bear lots of losses. And typically, you could look at the graph that is there in your material as well. There are two aspects to it when you look at a product life cycle. There is a sales line and there is a product life cycle stage. So along the x-axis we take the sales and profit, and along the y-axis we take the time part of it. What you notice is, a little module before, you also studied about the stages in the new product introduction. And you said about idea generation, screening, business analysis, test marketing, commercialization. Now all these things are there before you introduce the product. So there is a lot of costs involved. Now what you normally see is the costs that are there even before the product is launched is all expenses. There is a point when you introduce a product, I mean you study it in your costing and other things, that is the point at which your total cost is equal to your total revenue is what you call it as the break-even point. So you got to study in tandem as to what happens between the sales line and what happens in the product life cycle. So in the beginning, if you look at the sales line, it is below the x-axis indicating that there were losses. A little later, once you have introduced the product, you are able to recover your costs and you reach a point wherein the sales line touches the x-axis, you realize that it is the break-even point. And when it goes beyond that, you start making money, which is more than the break-even there. That is, you start earning profits. Typically, a product life cycle has got 4 distinct phases, where you say the first phase is the day one when you introduce the product into the market. The second stage is the growth stage. The third stage is no matter how hard you try, you won't be able to propel or increase the sales, and that is where you call it as the maturity stage. And there is intense competition and there is a lot of fight for the customer base. And at that point of time, when there are new substitutes coming, newer products with better features coming there. We had a landline for a very long time. Then came the smartphones. Then you talk about a lot of digitalization that had happened. So old is on a decline. So the thing is, if somebody still gets that landline handsets and other things, that it serves as a purpose of an antique in their homes there. So we are talking about the different stages which a product moves through the different stages. See, we had what is called as mainframes. Then we had what is called as the desktops. Then we had what is called as the handheld or palm-held devices that are there. And we talk about laptops. And now we talk about everything that you're doing with your handheld devices or your mobile phones. So the different stages that products go through. Now, let's look at very specifically what happens at each stage. At the introduction stage, it is a period of time when the product has just been developed and marketing program has just started. Sales start to rise fairly slow rate during the stage because not many people are aware of the product and its benefits, and the marketer normally spends large amounts of money on advertising, promoting the product during this period. As a result, profits are not very high at this stage because of the money which goes into promotion and marketing there. And the company may actually operate at a loss at this stage. This is a very crucial product. It could be a stage of make or buy for a new product. And it is estimated that, this is what research says, that approximately 40% of the new consumer products which are introduced at this phase would fail. We've already seen the reasons why new products fail in the earlier module. So products which survive and go beyond this, get into the next stage, which is called as the growth stage, are 60%. By the time it's decline, almost all the products are dead. So this is costly both for the business and to the consumers that are there at the introductory stage. Now the growth stage, which is the next stage, the product enters the growth stage when the sales begin to increase at a rapid rate. It goes in leaps and bounds. The awareness level is much high. Competitors also come in. They see that this is becoming famous. They have different ways of trying to produce it. So it gains during this period. Product gains consumer acceptance. People become more aware and people understand what are the benefits of a product. It is also during this period that competition enters, as I said, and longer this stage would last, greater is the profitability that the product will be successful. So this stage also is very crucial as to what do you do to keep people captivated or hold on to the idea of this product so that you can get them to the next level. The next level is the maturity stage. Now here what happens is the sales continues to rise in the early part of the maturity stage, but the rise is not as rapid as it had happened in the growth stage. There is a rise, but the rise is at a decreasing rate. And at the end of the stage, sales will start falling, or there is a peak level that is there beyond which the product life cycle cannot be extended and it would probably get into the next stage. So we say that it is almost like falling or a flattening of the curve which happens, that takes place at the maturity stage. And consumer durable goods have reached what is called as maturity stage in many developed countries. Now profits begin to decline and marketing is done with a little bit of restraint. Unlike the introductory stage where there is huge amount spent on promotion, advertising, now that kind of it get reduced at the maturity stage. Competition is very intense, very fierce, and it is based on price. People go about giving offers, discounts, price cuts. So it's very fierce battle for the products at this stage there. And most brands have similar attributes. You take at this stage, maybe I wouldn't like to mean in mobile phones, there could be a lot of brands that are there, they have similar attributes. And it becomes very difficult for the customer or a consumer to figure out as to what are the differences between the different models that are there. Now the last stage that you have is, I said about introduction, growth, maturity, and the fourth stage that you have is called the decline stage. So finally what happens is the sales starts falling, get into decline. Sometimes that happens very fast and very rapid that is there, and this is due to market saturation, or maybe there is a new technology that overtakes the existing one. As I said, landlines got disappeared and you had people taking up what is called as the smartphones and other things there. The black and white TVs that were there in the past got replaced with the normal color televisions that are there, and maybe the GSM mobile phones that were there got replaced with CDMA with smartphones that way. Now at this stage what happens is there are no volumes, the costs get dried up. Sometimes dealers who sell at a marginal quantity get eliminated, so there are competitors leaving the market at this stage. Advertisement spending and the costs are cut, sales costs get reduced, and at times the whole product gets eliminated. It becomes obsolete, it becomes unviable. People go about with saying that we don't need it anymore. So here you are trying to figure out how you can aim to improve the profits, and the product is milked, that is without adequate marketing support. What last you can get out of the product there, how best you can go about. It's like a stage wherein you like to sell it as a scrap, or you like to get the salvage value or the residual value. There is nothing, if you delay beyond this point, even if you give it for free, people may not take it, but there's no economic value left in that product. So that is where you talk about the decline stage, and the brand loyalty starts decelerating. And this is something which is very specific to the decline stage. Now, after knowing as to what happens at the different stages of a product life cycle in terms of introduction, growth, maturity, and decline, you have to understand as a marketer, or if you're an entrepreneur, or if you're handling a startup, what does this signify to me? What is this knowledge about this growth, introduction, maturity, and decline? How does it help me in decision making? So that is what we are liking to work out here. So what you look at is, at an introduction stage, the introduction phase marks the launch of a product. You said about the different stages in the new product development. So the launch happens at the introduction. And organizationally, this phase is characterized by high operational cost arising of inefficient production level. There are a lot of bottlenecks. You don't know anything. There's a lot of uncertainties. You have to do a lot of fast learning. You're very much unwilling to trade or to deal with the product. There are demands which are much higher than the margins. There's extended credit terms, a lot of advertising. And during this phase, firms require a lot of money, and all the money goes for meeting the expenses. And generally the suppliers, the media, and others are not willing to give huge credit. Hence the payments have to be made in cash. You don't get credit at all. And strategies during the growth stage, if you look at it, the firm can improve product quality and give new features to the product, new styles, new models. At an introductory level, you offer a basic model, and the firm can add new product models. It can enter into new market segments. It can increase. You were restricted to urban areas. You can go into rural areas, or probably you can go into international markets. Those kind of things you can do at growth market, because competition is slowly picking up. It can increase the distribution coverage by finding new distribution channels. You can shift to the way you create more and more awareness of the product through better advertising or better preference advertising that is there. Or it may lower the prices to attract the next layer of people who are price sensitive. Let's say what Titan had done, creating a brand called Sonata, wherein they went about, not everybody could afford the price of a Titan. So they created a kind of a thing, you call it stretching downwards. They created a brand called Sonata. So you get a feel of Titan, but at a lesser price. So people who are price sensitive came for that. And maturity level, this phase is characterized by slowing of growth rates of sales, profit. In fact, the decline in profit seems to appear now. Till maturity was okay, but profits also start coming down. This phase is also marketed by cutthroat competition. You're not trying to take a knife and slit the throats of the competitors. What do you mean by that is, people go about with foregoing profits. They have deep pockets. They want to eliminate competition. So they start selling products at a lesser rate. So they offer what is called as narrow profit margins. They get into a price and promotion war. They spend huge amounts of money on celebrities to create awareness of the products. At this stage, the competition gets very, very intensified, and the firm has got no other alternative but to invest in resources, in service, in augmentation, and also simultaneously undertake the task of cost reduction and hence price reduction. Now, maturity phase is also seen a boom in the market demand for more and more customers may be willing to accept the product there. Now, the strategies which are normally employed, let's understand this word strategy. Maybe at a different stage, you get a subject to study which is called strategic management at an MBA or at a later level there. Strategy is a Greek word which says strategia, which means warlike. Like let's say Abhimanyu, when he was in his mother's womb, he knew how to get into the Chakravyuh. So today, if you have to compete or if you have to fight against your competitor, how do you do it? You have a better product, you have a better price, you have a better place, or you have a better promotion strategy, you have better people, better processes, a wonderful physical evidence, or you're able to have a better productivity ratio in terms of your output is greater than your input. So these things go for strategy in marketing. So the strategy during the maturity stages, the firm may adopt different strategies. You may think about modifying the product itself. You may modify the marketing mix, or normally what people do is to attract next layer of consumers, or they go about changing the product mix or the marketing mix there. Now, what kind of things happen in the decline stage? Now, decline stage comes to any product. The decline is slow or it could be rapid in some cases. It may be due to better substitutes which have come into the market. Like, let's say when I was a student, I used logarithmic tables. Then came what is called as scientific calculators. You don't use logarithm tables because the scientific calculators do the purpose. We had photocopying machines in the past. Now, with the help of an app in your mobile phone, you are able to scan your certificate. So, where is the need for what normally people call the Xerox machine? In fact, it is the photocopying machine that is there. So, you have a substitute come. The app has been a substitute for a Xerox machine today. So, there could be an increased competition which makes you not being viable in the market. There could be technological advances which go about with making the existing products obsolete. There are a lot of reasons why a product has entered into what is called as a decline stage. So, in order to deal with this aging of products, a company has to take a lot of decisions. Sometimes it could be tough or difficult decisions there. And first and foremost is that weak product must be identified systematically, and the firm during the declining market has to adopt a strategy of investment strategy in which it has to either increase the investment, maintain it, or hive away or sell away those products, and that is where you use words like disinvestment on a selective basis. So, you may remove it for some smaller market segments, or simultaneously you may invest in some market niches which is to be increased there. See, market, when you understand, the one who tops is called as a market leader, the next is a follower, the one who challenges the market is called as a challenger, the market leader, and the last is the niche marketing that is there. So, the thing is, there could be a Coca-Cola, there could be a Pepsi, or there could be a Campa-Cola which was introduced recently by the Reliance Group. I mean, you can get a sugarcane juice, you can get what is called as soda hub, or you can get a Goli soda. I mean, that is something which doesn't compete with the top market leaders, and that is where you talk about market niches that are there. And we would like to summarize at this stage as to what product life cycle is. So, what happens is, if you take sales at an introductory stage, there are low sales. At growth, the sales are rapidly increasing. At maturity, that is the maximum point the sales can reach. That is the reason we call it peak sales. And in the decline stage, the sales start declining. Now, if you look at the cost per customer at different stages, to get a customer to buy your product, try your product, or patronize your product, cost per customer is very high in the introduction. But through word of mouth, the product benefits get spread, the average cost per customer starts coming down in the growth. At maturity stage, where people are very much aware, cost per customer comes down very low, and you have a very low cost at the declining stage. When you look at profits, I said the sales line, if you look at it, is negative in the introductory stage. Profit starts to rise in the growth phase, and there are high profits in the maturity, and profit starts declining in the decline stage. I mean, if you also have to study what is called as the different types of customers that are there, at different levels of adopting. There is something called as early adopters. There are, in the introduction phase, there is something called as innovators. Growth phase, the customers are called adopters. At maturity, they are called as middle majority. And there are people, no matter how many products you introduce, they don't buy it at all. Now, people, those who don't take your products at all, are called as laggards. And competitors, in the introduction, if you are a pioneer, they are very few in number. At the growth stage, the number of competitors catch up with you, they're growing. At maturity stage, you require strong competitors to give intense fight that is there. But once they realize that the product has outlived its life, people start leaving the market. So, the competition also declines at the declination stage. So, we look at marketing objective that is there at each stage. At the introduction stage, your objective is to create product awareness. At the growth stage, it is about maximizing the market share. At the maturity level, it is about maximizing profit while defending the market share and milking the brand. And at the declining stage, it is about reducing the product that you have there. And strategies, if you look at it very quickly, product, you offer a very basic product in the beginning. You offer product extension, service warranty and all at the growth. At the maturity, you diversify brands and models. And at the declination stage, you phase out the weak items. Pricing, in the introductory, it is the cost plus kind of pricing, and you will study more about in the pricing module there. And in the growth, it is priced to penetrate the market. You talk about skimming and penetration. So you want to reach the unreached areas. And in the maturity level, you're trying to match the competitors. If they cut the price and you don't cut, so people won't buy your products. You'll match the competition and you deduct prices or you cut prices drastically so that you are able to clear the stock there. That happens at the decline. Distribution, you build very selective in the beginning, introduction. Growth, it becomes very intense because competition is catching up, and it is at the highest intensity at the maturity level. Then you start going selective because many distributors don't want to carry your stock. Advertisement, in the introductory stage, it is about creating awareness, trying to find the early adopters, dealers, and it is at the growth level, you're trying to build awareness and create interest more and try to make it more market oriented. And at the maturity level, you stress on the brand differences and the benefits. You start talking about your USP, the unique selling proposition. And at the decline stage, you reduce the level that is needed to retain hardcore loyalists. And when it comes for sales promotion, you use heavy sales promotion because you want people to try in the introduction stage. At the growth stage, you reduce to take advantage of heavy consumer demand. And at the maturity level, you increase to encourage brand switching. I don't know if you would take competitors that are there. Most of the telecom users have moved to one particular brand, and this has happened by giving them a lot of promotions and other things, freebies in the form of in the form of offers which had come in there. And at the last stage, you go about with reducing the minimum level. So summarily, if you look for what we learn in product life cycle, it is calling for changing in the marketing strategy over time. So as a marketer, as a decision maker, as a manager, not just understanding the theory of product life cycle, it is about understanding the distinction, the phases the product goes through, the introduction, growth, maturity and decline. This concept of product life cycle serves as a managerial tool for planning and control. See, planning and control are considered to be two very important functions which a manager plays. In planning, you go about with setting the future course and direction. In control, you're trying to figure out whatever you're planned, are you able to achieve? They say it is like I'm wearing spectacles. It is because a bridge which is connecting both my lenses. If the bridge breaks, it would serve as a lens and not like a spectacle. Scissors are there. If you remove the hinge, it will not serve the purpose of cutting. It will serve the purpose of piercing. There are babies born with common organs. You call them the Siamese twins. Let me tell you, in management, the two functions, whatever analogies I gave about the baby, scissors and spectacles is like that, where you talk about planning and control are very, very closely related. So this tool is very reliable in modifying your marketing strategies. However, you got to deal it with a lot of caution and a lot of judgment is required. You got to exercise a lot of care in identifying as the product really moved from the introductory to the growth to the maturity to the decline. So all it requires is, if you can understand a lot of case studies, or you look at how companies have gone about with working out, look at, you study a Maruti company, it is a kind of a joint venture between the Suzuki Motors of Japan and Maruti Udyog in India. They had very basic 800cc vehicles. Then look at the kind of sports utility, luxury cars they have come. And they have stopped the line of Maruti Udyog because that is not a viable model anymore. 800cc, you can hardly find it on the roads today. The company has taken decisions as to what kind of cars, and many companies have come with smaller cars with better features and they were able to survive. So you can take anything. Today, earlier I should be reminded as to what part of the day it is with my watch. But today I have a smartwatch which goes about telling me how many steps did I walk, what is the pace of my heart, what is my blood pressure level, what is my sugar levels. So the watches have gone about with going from an analog to a digital to a smart level there. So it is very much pertinent that you got to understand how products move from the stages of introduction, growth, maturity, and decline. And this is something which is very much pertinent, and this is another core thing. So by understanding consumer behavior, understanding products, understanding product life cycle, that brings us almost to the end of product part. And later we study what you do in price, what are the different types of price, and what exactly you do in the place strategy and what you do in the promotion strategy. So that brings us to the end of this module, which is prepared for you to give insights of what is this product life cycle. And don't forget the analogy between the life cycle which a human life goes through to very similar to what happens in the life of a product.